I don't ever want to sound like it's like I stand for men and I'm going to bash like my own gender, because it's not that.
Sure.
I would rather it be like more of a, this is what they're trying to say, women, when men say this. And like, this is what men are trying to say, women, when men say this. So I want it to just be more of an understanding. Like, I think that many times people are trying to get along mutually,
Sure.
but they don't for communication reasons.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Breaking Stereotypes with Todd and Tootsie. Today we are joined by Emily King, a TikToker who has amassed 1.7 million followers in just a year and a half. Emily's TikToks focus on dating and relationship behaviors, but where she breaks the stereotype is that she calls out women and gives advice from the male perspective. Before we get started, I just want to remind our viewers to hit the like button and subscribe to our new channel for more in-depth interviews that break stereotypes. So welcome, Emily. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Yes,
Thank you for
welcome.
having me. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to start by talking about that I kind of came into contact with your channel. And, one of your pinned videos, which I think I saw originally, really just kind of struck a chord with me. And then I started watching, pretty much all of them. And this one was, if a guy is interested in you, you'll know it by his actions. It's easy to sit back and take in the attention. If you don't give effort back, you can lose him. If you give effort, he will go to the ends of the earth. Mm-hmm. It was something to that effect. Mm-hmm. And that really just resonated with me. And so I'm wondering, kind of where you came up with that.
Yeah. So I think that it happens often to good men that are kind of fighting a stereotype out there right now. And when I started to put up videos on TikTok, I saw a ton of videos, especially from female creators, really speaking the opposite of what I believed. And they were speaking to bad experiences that they had had with what I like to call more so boys rather than men. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, but at some point, like, you have to believe that there are good people and good men out there. And I think that if you don't, these women are kind of putting themselves into a position and they're acting in ways that are never going to allow a good man to be received, mm-hmm. Into their life. So, I think that video really spoke to the fact that, if you put in effort, if you put your feelings on the line just a little bit, like, mm-hmm. a good man is going to give you the world, mm-hmm. he's going to give you everything.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that a lot of women haven't had that experience, that they've, because now we kind of live in this culture, especially with online dating apps, mm-hmm. where, 80% of the women are interested in only about like 20% of the men, right? And yes. So it's one of those things where the guys at the top have this surplus, and it's very easy for them to not want to settle down, especially yes. when they're younger. And so a lot of the male population on those sites, for example, just gets left out of the equation.
Yes.
And they could be, very good men. And so is that, something that, again, maybe I just missed it, but you've mm-hmm. talked about, or something you've thought about talking about as far as, kind of trying to, I hate to use the word lower your standards, but, the reality is that they're not probably going to,
yes.
Connect with that guy.
I have spoke about this, especially the difference between standards and expectations. And I think it's expectations that really get in the way for women, especially. It's okay to have standards. Like, I never want my content to be taken as, you need to lower your standards and just take what you can get. Like, that's terrible. Like, you should try to really go for what you want. But a standard is very different from an expectation, in that standards are just kind of like the baseline. Like, you're not even going to accept anyone into your life without that. And an expectation tends to be a little bit more superficial. And it tends to be like, once you're already talking to somebody, once you're in a relationship, what you expect them to be rather mm-hmm. than what they are. Dating apps are challenging, because they do kind of make everything a bit more superficial. People move quickly on them. Women mm-hmm. have like a ton of choices. I know I've heard the stat of there's 4 men to every 1 woman. Mm-hmm. So that alone creates challenges.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that women oftentimes on dating apps, like they don't even realize they're doing it. You know, like
Yeah.
they're eliminating the guy that's holding the fish. Like, do you really not want a man to have any fun hobbies? Like,
Sure.
and it's just because they've heard other women complain
Yeah.
about it. It's
Well,
like not even something
yeah.
they actually don't like.
Yeah, well, it seems like, yeah, exactly. But the expectations, and again, maybe you can speak more to this, but it ends up being like 6 feet tall, six figures, six pack, that whole thing. And the percentage of guys who actually have that is very, very small. And then you throw in the fish on top of it. It's one of those things where, guys are automatically eliminated. And again, the guys who survive, they just kind of have a scouring the environment right now.
Yeah, the height thing especially, I think, is a struggle because I don't know. I think the average height for a man, I might be wrong, is like 5'10" or 5'11".
It's like 5'9".
Okay, so it's under 6 feet, and
Yeah.
I don't know where this came about, except for on dating apps,
Yeah.
where they have the height filter.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, women have a million choices anyways, so they're just going to use that as a filter too, because they'd rather just
Yes.
have a really tall guy that also
Sure.
has all the other things that they want. But
Yeah.
that's not realistic,
Sure.
People are multi-dimensional, and you're trying to make them into like this single dimension, which is just, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're going to
Well,
miss out.
Sure. Well, women get hurt by this too, unknowingly, because it's one of those things where either they get used or they just will match with somebody, for example, or swipe right, but at the same time, then there won't be any real connection.
Right.
So everybody's kind of losing except for just the guys at the top, right?
Right. Yeah, it's true. Because if you don't really care deeply about somebody's like physical appearance, and I would like to think that most women don't really or men don't care that much. I mean, yes, you need to have some physical attraction, and I've also spoken to this, that many of us become attracted to the people that we love their personality.
Sure.
And so that is what's missing. They're trying to get that attraction first, and that's why things don't mesh well,
Right.
because their personalities are so different.
Sure.
Right. You're trying to order chemistry on a menu, and it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, you're kind of going against the grain, obviously, with this approach. And so I'm curious how did you develop sort of a male perspective? Because it's like everything you're saying is like guys would be like, yeah, right on. That's
It's interesting, I guess, how I started to develop it. I mean, when I started my TikTok, it was like a little bit more personal. I was single at the time, single mom, going through being pushed into the dating scene again after 17 plus years, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
A lot had changed. And so I was more so starting off speaking about just how crazy the dating world is. And then it kind of turned into more of a conversation, I would say, between like men telling me things and seeing different videos that men versus women were putting out. And me just kind of seeing like common sense wise why it wasn't working. I tend to be more of an observer, I would say. And it just like, you have these two sides, especially on TikTok, that are very clear. And I was kind of like assessing why that wasn't working out. I remember one of my first videos that hit really well was about another male TikTok creator and how I didn't like his content because he was being like really harsh on women. But then I said, I started to understand that on my FYP page, it was just the For You page where you see all your content, I had seen 5 other videos by women that had bashed men. So like, I don't know, I just like taking it all in kind of gave me that perspective. And then also in my real world, like, I mean, I have a wonderful dad and I have a son and I have 2 older brothers. Like, I feel like I've always kind of had that strong male presence. And I don't know if I heard a girl talking badly about one of them, like it just, I don't agree with it. And, even if they were trying to speak to their motives that were not pure, like, I don't know, like that's not every man.
Sure.
So.
Well, one of the things too that is, I think, separates you, and I'm wondering, what your take on this is that at least, because you had told us in the pre-screen that you have like 90% of your followers are
is
men?
at 90%
Okay.
men right now.
Okay. But I think my take on why the reason is not only information that you're gathering, but you come across as very wholesome. I don't know what other word to use. Just kind of your girl next door type. And you don't utilize your sexuality at all. You know what I mean? If anything, you're just like cute sliding into the frame.
Yeah.
And but it's really different than, I don't want to say a lot, but some women that kind of on that platform anyways who kind of sexualize themselves in
Yes.
order to kind of get views and things like that. And
Yes.
so, but I think it's the combination of those two traits
Right.
that and obviously you're intelligent. Do you know what I mean? And so it's one of those things. So we'll add that into there too. So that have gotten you to this point. Would you say that the feedback that you've gotten is similar?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that early on when I started, like I absolutely could have had more views if I showed more skin. And and it was frustrating at times, I will say, like midway through my journey, that I would see a female creator use my sound or sometimes not even use my sound and just use my words.
Wow.
And she copied my content.
Wow.
But she was wearing
Yeah.
far less.
Uh-huh.
And the day, coming across, and she has a ton of views,
Yeah.
ton of likes. But, that's just, I spoke about that even on my TikTok. And the truth is that overall it's a compliment, right? That,
Sure.
that is still my content. And I would never be comfortable with doing anything outside anyways of who I am as far as what I'm wearing or how I'm presenting myself
Sure.
on videos. So yeah, I think that surprisingly a lot of men just respect that, because there are some that have made comments of you are one that doesn't need to just take off her clothes or and so obviously I like that. I would rather someone
Sure.
listen to my words and agree with what I think.
Yes.
So when you started out, what was your goal? I'm sure you never imagined you would have blown up to
No.
as big as you are. So, I mean, were you purposely trying to find an audience? Were you crafting your message with this target in mind, or did it just evolve?
This is what's crazy is that I never foresaw any of this. I mean, even just having 100 followers, I did not foresee.
Wow.
The first few videos that I put up was really as an outlet. I felt like, it was during the shutdown at the beginning of the pandemic, and I felt like I had less social outlet. And this just started to provide one. And I had a little bit of the dating frustrations. And as a single mom in her 30s with no other friends that were single and going through the same things as me, this provided the outlet. And so it's crazy. I just never imagined, because then I was putting out content that seemed to really hit well with people, and people messaging and saying that oh, this video helped me see that it wasn't just me. It wasn't all my fault. And really feeling like I was starting to make some kind of impact, which I just never foresaw. And I feel like that started to motivate me to do even more, advice videos.
Sure.
It's crazy.
Was there a tipping point where something happened and you just blew up?
Yeah. I feel like I had a couple small moments, small blow-ups. And then it kind of led to some larger blow-ups. It's really funny how TikTok works in that way. I know that there are creators out there that their second video ever posted, has 15 million views. That's not how mine was. Mine was always under 10,000 views in the beginning. And then a few months in, I had one or two blow up. And thinking back, that was probably still under 100,000 views, those blow ups, but then I think my largest blow up after it being under 100,000 was 1 million.
Wow.
I remember the first 1 million.
And what was that
one.
like?
Yeah.
It was insane because that's when I got a lot of followers too. And to see it like stitched and commented by like other TikTokers that had the blue check mark, I was like, that blew me away.
Yeah. It had to feel like an overnight sensation of something, like when you hear yourself on the radio the first time or something. If you're a band.
It was crazy. And then, I kind of had that feeling of, well, there was my one, but
Yeah.
but I still like, I don't know. I enjoy making the content, so that kept me going.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, after that hit, was there pressure for the next one? It's like a band that had the best album ever, then they have to do the follow up.
Yeah, that's the rough one. The second one after a video that's blown up, that's the rough one, and it never does as well. It just. I think over time I've learned that about TikTok is that it waxes and wanes. It really does. Like it is. And I've seen it on other creators' pages where it is typical to have 1 million viewed one and then having a 50,000 viewed one after that. So I don't know. I try not to focus too much on the numbers now just because I know that, there's going to be some that hit well and there's going to be others that don't.
Sure. Well, even if you're not subscribed or what's the terminology for TikTok or followed?
It's following.
Following. Yeah.
Followers.
So if you're not following, it's one of those things where if you do watch a couple of your videos, the algorithm is going to pick that up and send you more. So eventually you'll still get those views even if those people aren't following you. So that's probably what ended up happening. But just at a massive level where most people don't experience. Do you have any stats on kind of what the percentage is as far as the following you have and the likes that you have versus everybody else? Because it's just such.
Versus, I don't know about like versus anyone else. The stats that I can view are like gender, and then location as far as country.
Okay.
They don't break it down into states, so it's mostly U.S.
Okay.
Follow me. Some Canada. I feel like we're really close to Canada. So. And then. Oh, and then it breaks it down as to like time of day that most of your followers are on the app.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you can make sure you're posting at that time.
Exactly. Yes. That's how a lot of TikTokers use that information or when it's most ideal to go live.
So it's interesting. You were a physical therapist, right?
Yes.
And so when you started, this was obviously your side hobby.
It was.
And at some point you actually were able to transition and go full time as a TikToker.
Fairly recently.
Yeah. How did that feel? Was it scary, exciting? Were you just like, F this job, I'm a TikToker.
All of the above, no. There was definitely excitement. I mean, this was just about 2 months ago, maybe just over 2 months now. It was right before the holidays. I decided to make the leap. And it was exciting, but I also felt like, maybe this won't work out as a full-time job. But I can always go back and become a physical therapist again. Yeah. So, having less pressure on myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Helps.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I think the ideal too is that you're a professional and it's something that, like you said, you kind of did as a hobby and then it ended up blowing up. Where I would think, because it's such a younger demographic, that the majority of people who make a living doing this are probably much younger and that's all they know. And then it's one of those things where at some point, it's going to drop off, especially if you're using your looks or something like that in order to gain attention.
Yes.
And then you'd have to go to school and do everything where, for example, you're just giving, advice. And so it has nothing really to do with your parents, but it's something that, like you said, if it ends up drying up a little bit, you can always go back to work. And so do you feel anxiety sometimes for those other people that are 17 and all of a sudden, making $10,000 a month, that type of thing, and all of a sudden,
yes, and they're just like thrown into it. I feel like that it could be similar to any kind of like young star, or athlete, in which like yes, you could have an expiration date on it essentially,
sure,
and you have to be ready to like shift into your next role, when it could potentially start to decline, but. I don't know. It's interesting how TikTok is. I feel like it's here to stay for a while, even though, it started off being a much younger demographic. It seems to be hitting a note with some of the older generation, especially ever since the pandemic.
Sure.
Just because it's one more way to like link us socially, which we're all craving.
Yes.
right now. Yeah.
Well, you seem very grounded.
Thank you.
And like you have a level head about it, which is a good thing. What was the reaction of like your family and friends when you're like, I'm going full-time TikToker?
An interesting mix,
Yeah.
Definitely. My parents being ultra supportive, really.
Nice.
I had been talking to them about it for almost a year and a half at that point, too. So I think that was helpful. It didn't feel like it was a huge jump.
Were they watching your videos?
They do not follow me on TikTok. I have not gotten my 71-year-old dad to get onto TikTok. But I have like cousins that do, they'll log into TikTok, and then sometimes they'll like send videos to their parents, and then like my parents end up being sent them too. I've shown them too, to my parents, just some of them, but they're not like actively always watching me. They just check up with me and see how everything's going once in a while. But yeah, it's been a mix because, especially when I started TikTok, I was speaking details a bit about my ex-husband and, some things that maybe he did not want to be shared publicly. So, that's a whole separate discussion, and understanding that side of things and understanding that I need to like respect some people's privacy if, they don't want to be spoken about. Also his parents, like I had spoken about them a little bit, really in positive ways. But I'll never forget the phone call that they made to me, and they were like, we don't want to be talked about publicly. And I had to respect that. I wasn't going to punt like content above that, like the real life connections. So that's what I mean by like mixed reviews. So some people very accepting and others not. I think that's just the real world.
Sure. Well, and because, again, it's such a newer platform that, maybe like your parents even, or people in that generation may have, said, oh, this is just, something that's going to pass by, that type of thing versus it being, something that is the next best thing or biggest thing, I should say, and is going to continue to grow as, obviously I'm on it. And I'm 50 years old. So it's something that...
Are you really?
Yes.
You do not look 50.
Oh, thanks. But it's something that, it's, one of the difficulties is that it can be very addicting and time consuming. And so it's one of those things where you have to, that's kind of where I have some caution for a lot of the younger viewers.
Yes. I've thought a lot about that in that, I've thought, what if this was like my position when I was 17? Like, I would not have been able to handle this.
Right.
I don't know. I really do feel for anyone that is in that age range of like really under 20, especially, that see this everywhere. They're very involved in TikTok and social media, and either they are big on it and they've like gotten a following, which is pressure in itself. But then even like the younger adult that is like hoping that they get big on social media, because I don't know, I've never run into a big content creator that has stood before me and said, I aimed for 2 million followers and I got it in 5 years.
Right.
Like it seems to always be the story of, I had no idea that this was going to happen, which is amazing to me.
Right.
Sure.
But I think that kids don't know that. And then they're like putting pressure on themselves to be like this person online, and they haven't even had like enough years behind them to really like create that.
Yeah. Their brain's not even fully developed yet.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it can be tough. And that's why it's something that, again, is interesting that, you're coming from this place who you've done it later in life, so to speak, on that platform anyways. And so it's probably one of the reasons why you're able to handle it so well. And also it doesn't feel like you feel much pressure about it.
I mean, before 2020, I had Facebook. I was not even using my Instagram. Wow. I had an Instagram account. I had never posted on it. And Facebook was like more so for family and friends. I think I have like 150 friends on Facebook. So other than that, Facebook, I had no social media experience.
Wow.
And I think I posted on Instagram before TikTok, if I remember right. but it was only like a month, before posting my first video. So I think that does help me stay grounded. Plus having 2 kids running around and limited time to like check my phone, that helps. That really does help me stay grounded.
Yeah.
So how has your life changed now? And I guess I'm particularly curious about dating because I know you're dating and, like, at what point do you drop the, like, I have 1 million followers on TikTok and, or, you're out and you're recognized or something like that? Like,
yes. Yeah. So I do have a boyfriend now, and we've actually been together. I did start my TikTok before meeting him, before talking to him, but it was only about maybe 3 months in, and I had maybe 20 or 40,000 followers. And I remember, like, when we first started talking, I just, like, told him. I told him maybe within the first, like, 3 conversations. And it was more of, like, this just fun, like, I can't believe this, but, and it was just, like, a playful thing. And he has, like, just always been so supportive of me, even, like, when I've doubted myself at times. He honestly has helped me, I think, kind of stick with it and feel good about it.
That's great.
Yeah, I think it would be very challenging if I was like out there dating.
Yeah.
I talked about this on my TikTok. Like there was a gap of time in which we were not together, and that was fairly recently, but I did not actively date. And I was scared of it. Like I don't know, that would be extra challenging because I would be worried, that like somebody could just put something personal out there about me and I don't trust them yet because we're strangers. How do you navigate that,
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, did you meet over TikTok or?
So no, we didn't. We did not.
That's probably another good sign, right?
It is. We met on Facebook.
Old fashioned. Wow, you're like grandparents.
We are.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Indeed.
but that probably makes a big difference though in your relationship because
Yeah.
if you met someone now, it's one of those things where, first of all, I think. From a guy's point of view, honestly, the pressure would be huge.
Yes.
Like to be like that good guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You can't screw that one up because if you do, you might be the next video.
I know.
And but it was one of those things where for him, he met you kind of on your rise.
Exactly.
And so, much different place. It's, like, again, akin to the actor or the athlete or whatever that is you meet college or something, then they go pro.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Which you kind of did go pro when you decided to quit your job. I mean, that's kind of going pro.
That's true.
Right?
That is very true. Yeah. That was a big step.
So do you give dating advice in real life to people who are in your life? Like, is everyone like, you're the expert now,
I
tell me
do.
what to do?
Yeah.
Is it like men and women?
Yes, a mix for sure. Like even my old coworkers, when I was still practicing, even when it was getting out there to like, I probably shouldn't say this, but even to like patients, when it was getting out to them, like just during the last few weeks, because I really tried to keep it under the radar for the most part, because, that's not what I'm there for. And so, but when they found out at times, like, they'd be like, can I ask you just side note question, relationship question, unrelated to my ankle sprain. But, it I had to be careful. And I am careful, too, about, like, advice that I give on TikTok and making people aware that I am not a professional. I am not professionally trained, that this is really just advice out of my own life and out of life experience and from what I like to consider common sense,
Sure.
But yeah,
Common
I do
sense
get asked.
is not so common, though, right?
No. And a lot of my friends, I have a group of friends that are actually quite older than me that I love spending time with, and I actually take in a lot of information from them. I am usually not the advice giver at that time in that circle of friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one of her TikToks. I think it was one of the trends, and you were at the
Yes,
bowling
it's
alley
this
or
one.
something like that. Yes, but it was all like with senior citizens. It seemed like-
People were commenting that. That's part of my group of friends.
That's why she's so active on Facebook. You have to- right.
I need to keep up with them.
Right.
yes.
So do you ever get pushback from anyone, especially women who are saying like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you're speaking up for the wrong side.
Yes.
Trade secrets.
Yes, I do. I always I haven't had it much recently, but I've always had like sprinkled here and there comments from women that will call me different names. Yeah, and like that's usually a very much a minority. And I will say that even though it's just 10% of a following of women, like the women followers that I have now are great. And they're
probably all
commenting
lesbians.
more.
I'm just saying.
They're awesome.
Just a guess.
Yeah. Little compliment. Yes. I have had more pushback, I would say, in the past. There was one mistake that I had made. I had stitched a video, and I'm kind of known for stitching videos of like, women that are saying something terrible about a guy or doing something that I don't consider right, and I'll comment about it. But one video that I stitched was from a girl that had a decent following, I think like 40,000 followers. And she was saying that women do not want to be approached at gas stations. But when I had stitched the video and saved it to my drafts, I had cut out the whole at a gas station part.
Oh.
Okay.
And so my stitched video, when I went to film it, I honestly only like remembered that part of the video because you only save that part of the video that you're clipping. So if you don't know what like a stitch video, it's just like 5 seconds of the video that you've chosen to take. And it's just her saying, women do not want to be approached. And so my video was, what do you expect? Like, how are guys going to meet you then? And so that got pushed back, right? Of course, with her saying I took her words out of context. And she started getting like horrible comments from some of my followers to her on her page. And I had to take the video down, and I apologized in my next video. But, that lingered for a little bit. But I don't know, like that definitely made an impact on me. I'm like, I need to be a little bit more careful about who I'm stitching and like exactly what the words they're saying are and what they're meaning.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have made a difference if you would have left the gas station part in there?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so because, I think so. I think that if I had left that in there, people would have commented under my video like, no, you're not right, Emily. Like, women don't want to be approached at a gas station. They don't feel safe in that situation.
Okay.
Like, I think it just would have, not blown up. And I would have had just comments that didn't agree.
It does
Okay.
seem like a weird place to hit on a woman.
It
I'm
is.
just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got the hubcap key.
Like you're in the dark.
Yeah.
I feel like gas stations around here too, like it matters where you're living. You know? Like if you're out in the country, like that is kind of scary.
Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
But it's interesting you say that because, there's no handbook really for, I mean, maybe there is now, but everything
Probably
you're
is.
right. Everything you're doing, you're just learning, trial by fire as you do it, right? So
Yeah. Well, the reality too is that the world is changing and evolving so much when it comes to dating and kind of what's expected and so forth. And Tootsie and I talk all the time about that I started dating in the late '80s, and it's something that was very commonplace because there wasn't any options. Like to go to. Maybe not a gas station, but at the gym or whatever, just to say hi, introduce yourself, and so on and so forth. But now we're kind of getting these mixed messages that, can you do it? Can you not do it? And it's almost kind of like if you're, and this is going to sound terrible, but if you fit their criteria, you can do it. But if not, then don't, right?
I've heard that so often from men especially because it's true because like especially like at the gym, right? I know that's kind of like teeter-totter. I don't know, like some women I think would be okay with being approached, but you're kind of right, like it has to be somebody that they want to be approached by.
Yes.
And they're okay with it. I don't know, I try to speak to it as far as like it doesn't mean anything. Like, don't put pressure on yourself just because somebody's saying hi to you. Like, it does not mean that you owe them anything. And I think that some people, like, make that mistake. And then that's why they're like, I don't want to be spoken to because they feel that pressure to, like, I don't know, actually, like, have a full-on conversation with them or provide them their phone number. Like, I think that's just the world that we live in today is it's more of don't approach me in real life. You know, you can approach me on social media and I'll get to decide, you know, at the gate whether I'm going to talk to you or not.
Yes.
Where do you get all the feedback from men? Are they just in comments? Are they DMing
Yeah.
you? And
Mostly comments.
Okay.
I would say I definitely try to read through many of my comments, but I do get DMs too, you know, in a separate inbox that I'll sometimes peek at. But the comments are really where I try to interact.
What's it like? Because I'm sure with each of your videos, especially the ones that blow up, you have tons of comments as far as
Yeah.
deciding who to respond to, if anybody. Do you know what I mean? And then it's one of those things where if you respond to one person and not another, do you feel bad? You know,
Yes.
that type of thing.
The comments are where I like want to most improve. Like that is, it's tough because if I have a video that blows up, you're talking 10,000 comments.
Oh my
Like there's
God.
just no way.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going through all of them.
No.
So usually like if it's already blown up and I'm going to the comment section, the ones up top that will show that I see first are mutual friends, right? So I try to always comment back to them on TikTok.
Okay.
And then there's like the most liked in order typically. So, you know, I'll try to respond to those. So it's kind of like filtered out already from the audience as to like which comments they've enjoyed the most.
Okay. Makes sense.
Comment sections on TikToks can be fun.
You should just, for fun, like go down to someone who just has one like or something like that, and then respond to them.
You have
and
so much
make
power.
Their day.
Or the emojis.
Yeah.
So TikTok filters it. So like the very bottom comments are all the emojis, no words. So yeah, I should just go down to that one smiley face and
say,
respond.
what'd you like about it?
Yeah.
Blow their mind.
Yeah.
So what is your TikTok routine like? Like during the day and during the week? Like how much time are you spending on each thing? And do you map it out?
So I do. I try to map it out. It's definitely changed since I've been full time, and I feel like I am still trying to find the best schedule. So I play around with it. I was for a time trying to do like 3 videos a day, you know, Monday through Friday, where I was shooting for those videos and posting them the same day. But
Oh, wow. 3 a day?
yeah, three a day. 3 a day is like my average posting
Wow.
for TikTok. But now it's like, I don't know, I try to modify it. I can kind of crunch the schedule down a little bit. So I'm actually filming 5 a day.
Oh.
And then I have enough for the entire week to still post 3 times a day, along with like sponsored videos too.
Wow.
So I would
That's
say
a lot
it's
of pressure. 3 a day?
Yeah.
Because, you know, now they've elongated the format. So you can go up to what? Like
3 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think I've maybe only posted 1 3-minute video ever.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But still, even a 30-second video is a lot because you
Yeah.
have to get a lot of information out in a very short period of time.
Yes.
And you have to coordinate it. You know, so for people who don't know, Emily's approach is that, you know, she's probably very athletic, is she slides into the frame in front of a mirror, which she's holding her phone, which is recording the mirror, which while she's sliding, she starts talking about whatever is going on, and then just kind of stays there throughout the video. So it's a lot, and you know that's kind of everybody's, I think, trying to find their shtick, and that's kind of been yours, and it's been effective, and it's cute, and you know what I mean, it's so on and so forth. But it's also something that I'm wondering, you know, can you talk a little bit about how you developed that process?
Oh, yes. It's funny. It was probably like my 5th video ever posted. I just walked up to my mirror. Like I was shooting my feet walking, and then I just brought my camera up to the mirror shot. And I probably got that kind of from like the bathroom entrances that I saw other people doing. I'm sure you guys have seen that, you know, where somebody's
Yes.
like just, you know, slamming the door open and coming into screen. And I don't know, I thought that was cool. And so then I started doing just like sidestepping into the mirror shot. I was kind of trying to make it like a looped video. So coming in and out makes it smooth. And sliding just became faster. And I have hardwood floors, and I'm always wearing socks. So that's how it developed.
Did you ever injure yourself? Did you ever have to do your own PT? Like,
Yeah, no, I semi-injured myself when I tried to do a one-legged side slide, and I ran into my vanity, which is to my right, and my like hip bone hit it,
Oh, wow.
and I was actually sore there for a couple days.
TikTok injury.
Yeah, TikTok injury. Put that on the ICD-10 code. But I've never fallen. I always get asked for bloopers, but I'm like, gosh, I could make one up, but I just don't want to do that. It doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Like, I just haven't fallen. Knock on wood.
Right.
So what's the creative process like for you as far as getting the material?
Yeah. Well, I have to keep up my athleticism for the slides. So I will go to the gym.
No.
and-
I was talking about. Yeah,
No, I know.
Okay.
But this has to do with content.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So I will go to the gym and I will be on the treadmill, and I actually do my best creative thinking when I'm like walking
Okay.
on the treadmill.
Okay.
And that is where I will brainstorm most of my content. And
Okay.
it's all on my phone, and I'll just I'll punch it in. So I get it from different sources. So like for some of my content, I'll look at other content, and sometimes I disagree with it. So some of the time it's just scrolling through TikTok,
Sure.
right? And those are where I find stitched videos to use. And then I'll go on my Instagram too, and sometimes there's like motivational quotes or quotes that like women have posted that are kind of like one-sided to them. I'm like, well, that kind of, that goes for guys too. And I'll change it up to be like the male perspective of that idea. Yeah, and then the other thing that I do is like I'll listen to the viral music on TikTok and look at trends, and every
Sure.
so often I'll do a trend. I think those are just really fun.
Sure.
I would not say that that's my base content, but
Yeah, but it breaks things up a little bit, and it
It
shows a different side of your personality
Yeah.
rather than just giving the advice giver.
exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where like the sliding comes in too. It's just like something additional that's fun.
Sure.
And I know people have commented quite a bit about how steady I hold the phone.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. Like I just like naturally was doing that. I wasn't trying to, but people started commenting all the time on videos. Like this was probably a year ago. And I'm like, wait. And then I started noticing it. I'm like, I do hold the phone in one place. I feel like my arm's just like really rigid. And so it just never moves with a steady hand. So then like sometimes I'll highlight those things, and it's just fun. I'll be just moving to some music and holding my phone as steady as I can. It's fun.
Sure.
Do you have a lot of male tastes? Like I'm picturing, do you get like GQ in the mail and you're just like scouring men's health?
Oh, you know what I
websites?
do? Well, this just reminded me. So I do listen to a podcast. So I don't know if you know the School of Greatness, Lewis Howes. I'm just a huge fan of
Okay.
his. And yes, that is totally like male perspective. He's written books too about toxic masculinity. I have yet to read that book, but like he speaks to it a lot. And so I absolutely think that has influenced me for sure. But no magazines.
Well, that's too old
Magazines
fashioned.
don't exist
I know,
anymore,
I know.
do they? Yeah.
They might have had them in the waiting room at your
No,
office.
no.
might have, yeah.
Even our phones now, you can never be bored.
When you're speaking in your videos, a lot of times you're talking to women. Like
Yes.
you say, "Hey, ladies, this and that." But do you feel like you're actually talking to men?
A lot of times, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I guess I'm validating
Yes.
a lot of what they're already feeling, what they wish that they could tell to a woman. But if they did, they would probably get even more kickback than if I am saying it. Like and I've seen it, like on male creators pages where they try to say something similar to something that I have said, and they have more female followers just because that is how TikTok works.
Sure.
And their comment section is very different from mine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the importance of allies, right? So it's like you're the ally, and you can speak. You can speak for the men. I called you the Lorax of male dating at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
that makes sense. It's safer for you to say it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, again, speaking to that male audience, it's going to resonate more. Do you have any? This is a question I have as far as notifications. Like, how often your video is shared with other people?
yeah.
Because that's kind of a common thing that I'll do.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody does it, I think. But like have a group chat with my buddies. I'll take one of your videos and send it to them.
Yes.
And then it gets around because. We talked about this in the pre-screen too, but you've showed up in the weirdest places. Like some
Yes.
of the content that I watch on YouTube, all of a sudden Emily will be there, and it's something that, you're not even aware of. I guarantee you, because we probably haven't heard of these websites, but they have massive followings as well.
Yes.
So, so I'm wondering, have you gotten feedback either from TikTok or just people in general saying, that they your videos are floating around out there, more just on the platform?
Yes, it's interesting. I do not really get notified from TikTok other than the amount of shares that a video has had, which is literally just a number. So it's hard for me to know unless I just run into it by accident. And there have been times when I run into it by accident. Once it was on YouTube where I was clipped in with some other female creators, and it was just really cool to see, And then another time on Instagram, somebody had tagged me. Well, a bunch of my followers actually had tagged me in a video of another huge creator that had stitched my video, but the tag wasn't there to me. It was only because I caught it from my followers tagging me. So that's been interesting. And then, there was one time when my coworker came into work, and we'd only been working together for a month, and one of my videos had popped up on iFunny, which is, I guess, an app that I've never heard of, but it's something that he uses, and I think it's younger generation use it. It's memes and funny videos. Okay. And he pulled it up. At that time, we hadn't really seen each other's faces because we were still wearing masks all the time. So he pulls up the video. He's like, "Emily, I have a question for you. Is this you?" And I was like, "Yes." So it was funny, just in my real life, something like that popping up. And I was like, what is the app? How did I end up on there? But I would have no idea unless I just run into it that way.
Yeah. Are you worried about, since right now the mask mandate is gone from New York. So walking into Wegmans and having somebody come up to you and, trying to talk to you about your content at all.
Yeah, it's funny. I have thought about that, now that I'm not wearing a mask into Wegmans. And so I've only had it in real life where somebody has approached me twice so far, ever. Wow. And I have loved, I just love interacting in person too. So that
you weren't at a gas station, were you?
I was not at a gas station, thank goodness. Once at a restaurant, once at church. So very safe places. But I think it's fun. I always say, actually, somebody saw me at Disney World, one of my followers.
Wow.
Okay.
I forgot about this. I was on Instagram and I caught the comment. He's like, "You were in line at da-da-da-da-da."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Yes, I was."
Whoa.
And I'm like, that doesn't really weird me out. I'm just like, why didn't you say hi? I don't know. I'm okay with that right now, at least.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm sure it'll happen more without the mask mandate with me running around and doing things.
Sure.
But I would almost rather know, that me, I would rather it be that way rather than you just knowing me and not saying anything, especially if I'm going to see you on a repetitive basis, at my kid's school or something like that,
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you feel different now that you've done this? Are you a more confident person? Do you feel like you kind of found, you discovered something in yourself that was maybe hidden? Yeah. Physical therapy to this is a big jump, right? It's a totally different.
It is. And I would say a big yes to that
awesome.
question. Honestly, yes. Yeah. I feel like I've always had to be able to present information in a good way to people because of my background of physical therapy. But it's so different. We're talking about a much larger audience. And I feel like as a child, I was very shy. And I feel like this happens often to people where they are shy kids, they are introverts, they're more observers, and then they find their own when they're older. And I do feel like that. I feel like I am very comfortable in sharing the information that I share now, and that it has brought out this whole nother level of confidence for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because in a way, it's like public speaking without a crowd.
Yes.
Especially when you know that all eyes are on you.
Yes.
Because you have very good diction, for example. Do you know what I mean? But that's important, and you're probably more aware of that maybe than you were before, for example, or it's something you tapped into, or just all of these thoughts that you have. It's something that maybe you didn't think about as deeply, and now you're going down this rabbit hole, and again, you have the intellectual ability to be able to then understand, process, and then put it back out into the world.
Yes.
But in a very positive manner.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, even going through school and giving presentations, like, that was like the worst thing, going
so
into
funny.
class and them telling you the big thing in this class is that you give a presentation at the end of the semester. But I've always, even in school, like, once it was done and over, or even like during it, like, I enjoyed it. It was weird. It was nerves, but like excitement to a certain extent.
Sure.
And so I think it was always sort of there, It was just, I resisted it for a while because of those initial, like, fearful feelings.
And probably it's not the traditional route. And,
Yes.
you were probably raised to, be more traditional and like go to
Right.
college, get your degree, get the job.
Absolutely.
And- right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I will say with TikTok or any kind of like video content, it's way easier. Like, there's less resistance. Like, you just do it and you can always delete the video
Yeah.
Right.
if you're not happy with it.
Sure. Or take 2 or 10 or whatever.
Exactly. It's
right?
less pressure.
Yeah.
But the first take is always the best. That's what I found. At least that's
Okay.
how I work.
Best
If
slide.
you try to redo it,
Yeah.
try to redo it, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's more mechanical. It's less natural.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you see for yourself in the future? I mean, obviously this can keep going for a while, but
Yeah.
do you think you'll evolve and change and branch out into other platforms or?
I think so, absolutely. I do think that it's important for anyone that kind of grips hold of any kind of platform, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. It's important to branch out and kind of be thinking ahead. And I think I have the time to do that now, like before going full time, it was just a little bit too much. It was just trying to keep my head above water. But yeah, I think that it's exciting and fun to think about that there's, so much opportunity out there, whether it's a different platform. Diving into YouTube, I think would really be like my next thing that I would enjoy. People have recommended, you should write a book.
I was thinking that too. Like if you just,
Yeah.
curate and accumulate all your advice and
Yeah, so I'm still like, I'm thinking about that. But I also think like I just enjoy video so much that maybe I would do the YouTube videos first and do
Yeah.
longer format there.
Or,
But yeah.
yeah, or the big thing, now is audiobooks, and you could record it
Actually,
yourself.
yes.
And that would be in your voice, and then
like
it
that
would go
idea.
out, and people would download it. And because, like for example, I don't read books nowadays; I just listen to them
Yeah.
all the time, whether I'm at the gym, whether I'm in the car,
Exactly,
whatever
you can
it
be on the
is.
move.
And it's something if you already have a connection with this person, as far as because you follow them on TikTok. There's a lot of opportunity for them to sell books.
Yeah.
That would also give kind of a condensed version of watching hours and hours of content.
That's true. I might take that idea.
yeah. If you need agents, we're up for it. Yeah.
Well, you are going to be on YouTube for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. This will be my first long format, right?
Right.
Yes. So, did you have the intent on trying to reach men because of the fact that you thought you would get a larger following if you spoke to them directly?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I definitely did not think that I would get the following that I have gotten, like, in general. So I would say that, like, my motivation was not in, like, trying to get a big following, especially because, like, I haven't seen any creators really speak about the topics the way that I do.
They're out there, though. That's the interesting thing. And I've pointed them
Yeah.
out to Tootsie, and they are not just ripping your stuff off, but it's one of those things where they
yeah.
don't have near the following. And
Yeah.
so it's one of those things where it is few and far between.
Yeah.
Mostly it's men giving advice to men
Yes.
and women giving advice to women.
Yes. What I will say, like midway through this journey, I was getting a lot of comments under my videos tagging another TikToker who is a woman, and I wish I could remember the username now, but she's actually had to recreate a ton of accounts because she usually ends up getting banned on TikTok.
Okay.
But there's a big group of my following that I think came from her following, just because
Okay.
you know how TikTok works and they kind of link similar content together. So her viewers ended up seeing my content and we kind of were sharing viewers. But, and I looked her up because of all the comments, and like, yes, she was saying some like similar things to me, but she was being like really rough and harsh on women. And I don't ever want to sound like it's like I stand for men and I'm going to bash like my own gender, because it's not that.
Sure.
I would rather it be like more of a, this is what they're trying to say, women, when men say this. And like, this is what men are trying to say, women, when men say this. So I want it to just be more of an understanding. Like, I think that many times people are trying to get along mutually,
Sure.
but they don't for communication reasons. So yes, I saw her like midway through though. And other than that, like more of the content that I was seeing initially was, again, like females talking badly about men. And they were having a lot of women followers, obviously. I think that's also how TikTok works when you're first logging into the app. And I just didn't agree with that perspective. I think there have been definitely more female content creators that follow me, and they kind of speak to similar things as I do. And even if they say something very similar to what I have, I'm glad that they're out there saying it.
Sure.
And I just followed one back the other day. Like, I think that the more of us there is, the better. And I think that people can tell when you're being genuine and when you're not being genuine. So
Yeah.
I kind of,
Yeah.
I rely on that.
Yeah.
So even if somebody takes my words, like, I know the credit will eventually come back to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like for you, it started with authenticity and
Yeah.
just like a genuine, like, this is how I feel. I want to share it. Whatever happens, happens. And that's probably the best route to go. And when you blow up, that's the reason why, because there's really like, it's grounded in this authentic viewpoint.
Yeah, that's what I hope. I mean, I hope people can see that.
Yeah. Well, and as a viewer and as a man myself, it's one of those things where it's really refreshing to hear that. 'Cause, one of the other questions I have, because this is something that I've experienced, is that if you look at mainstream, kind of, I'm thinking more commercials or even TV shows, they kind of show the man as kind of the dumpy, unintelligent, and where the woman is kind of squared away, like maybe like
Yes.
Family Guy or The Simpsons or
Yes.
commercials even. Do you know what I mean? And it's one of those things where it's been this trend where it's like it's okay to do that, where
Absolutely.
that's not reality. You know?
Absolutely. I just saw somebody's content in regards to that.
Oh,
I
really?
think it might
Okay.
have been on TikTok, and it's so true. Like, and I think we don't even recognize that. At least women, I don't think I even recognized that until it was presented that way, and I'm like, you're right. Like that, it's so true, and that's not the real world. I think we should all know that. Like anyone that has a strong male presence in their life, whether it's their father or brothers, like I don't know. And it's interesting though. That's how society is right now,
Yeah.
presenting that way.
Yes, but I think that hopefully it will correct itself, and you can help. You're part of the solution as far as getting that done, as far as having people be viewed as true equals.
Yeah.
No matter what their gender is or their sexuality or whatever.
Yeah.
That we're all in this together, and there isn't any hierarchy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what's crazy about nowadays is just the change of gender roles. And I think that's why there is so much discussion about it nowadays, which
Sure.
is good that we're discussing it.
Yes.
But I think that is a huge part of the struggle. Is like who's supposed to do what here? It's like we actually have to communicate with each other about every detail. Whereas 50 years ago, it was a lot of assumptions. Like,
Yes.
you are the woman, you are going to do this, you're going to do that. Like, without actually having to discuss it and having differing opinions on things.
Welcome to being gay. I mean, I just feel like
I know, right?
this is old news. If you're gay, it's like, who's doing what here?
Yeah, you actually, I'm sure. Like,
Yeah.
you find you have to discuss,
Yes.
like, every detail.
Yeah.
Which has to be,
Yeah.
like, a little bit exhausting, maybe, but still in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, it's more just like figuring out, like, are gender roles expected?
Yeah.
Are they okay? Some women love chivalry and some reject it, and so it's like trying to navigate that,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
well,
Guess we're all in
all
it.
Yes, yeah, we're all in it, and things are changing really quickly. But it's one of those things where, again, I think having both sides of the story out there is
Yeah.
what's important. Because a lot of the male content right now, for example, can be misogynistic,
Yes.
and it's something that it's understanding the female perspective too, that it's like women, there's nothing inherently unhealthy or negative about women in general. Obviously, there's a subset of women that are engaged in unhealthy behaviors, but it's the same thing with men.
Yes.
It's a subset. It's not everybody.
And I see that content
All
on TikTok
men
too.
or all women, right?
Yeah, and I do. Like, I will see, there's a really big creator, female creator on TikTok who stitches males' videos that, the men are saying something outrageous, right? And she stitches them and kind of puts them in the place, but she kind of goes a little far again with things. I feel like all the way over to one side, which, she gets a lot of attention, a lot of views for. But, I could also stitch those videos. I've thought about it, men that are speaking terribly about women. The ones that I tend to more so stitch are ones that have stitched that already and say it's like a man has stitched that. And he's like, what are you saying, dude? This is how I feel about my wife. And so I'll duet that because I just want to show that's not how everyone's thinking, that here is a good man that does not agree with that perspective and he's happily married and
Sure.
Yeah. So it's just showing that other side.
So if people want to find you, what's your TikTok handle?
Yeah, my handle is just at Emily W. King.
Okay.
And then my Instagram is also Emily W. King _ though on Instagram.
Okay.
Somebody already had Emily W. King.
Okay. Okay. And we can put that in the description box.
I feel like it's kind of ironic that your last name is King. Was that marketing?
I didn't think about that till just
I
now.
know. I have had a few comments on that too. No, it's the name I was born with.
That was meant to be.
Thank my dad.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Emily. We appreciate it. And just want to remind our viewers to like and subscribe. And please drop a comment below if you feel like Emily broke a stereotype today. Not only about her dating perspective, but about what a TikToker might be like. And so we would love to hear comments and feedback on the video. Thanks again, Emily.
Absolutely. Thanks
Thank
again.
you so much for having me.